So this is a MAN nail, as I like to call them. Basically, the problem with the vehicle is not selecting gear. Basically, there's a relay here, you can see with my finger, that controls the gearbox, which is controllers basically under there. So it's voith automatic. So what we've got here is we've got our test light, LED test light I may add. You can see that it's illuminated, so you just expect there to be a feed here that's going through the fuse, through the relay and into the controller underneath there. Now this is our actual voltage, as you can see, 4.8 volts. Take the light away and it gets no better. If we move the meter over to a good positive, which should be here, we've got battery voltage or charging voltage. If I press this button on the load probe, you can see the voltage drop. Again, you can see there's probably half a volt drop there, which ain't too sad in the grand scheme of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out where cable 151, which is the MAN ignition feed, comes from and why it's got no power on it. What I've done is I've run a cable from the battery isolator to this fuse holder here. So what we're going to do is we're going to back test from this fuse all the way down the vehicle to the front. So if we follow this wire, you'll see where I've connected my cable up to. It goes to this point here. So this is a permanent feed. We don't need to fuse it because the cable is disconnected from the gearbox controller. And we are literally just testing from the plug there along the chassis to the front, which I've also unplugged at the front. So this is what we call back testing. And you'll see here I've connected up my meter to here, so this is plug 10, and as you can see we've got 25 volts, which should tell us that the cable between the rear and the front is okay. And if I push this button here, we'll put a load onto the meter, which should tell us if we've got a voltage drop. Press the button here, and we've got about 0.9 of a volt. So for all intents and purposes, our cable is good. Now if I disconnect this, you'll see where our problem lies. This is why you should always unplug the plug and check things, not just going through the back, but actually going through the front. As you can see, the cable and the pin has burnt out, and we've got a load of corrosion, which don't help the vehicle at all. And then there's the other plug, which is also suffering bad earth. Now, yeah. And that's how we do electrical repairs. So I know you're going to ask me, what if I don't have a load probe? Can I still check the cable front to back with my multimeter set on resistance? And the answer is yes. So what we do, simple really, we touch our two leads together because we're testing obviously 0.3, 0.4. We want basically, because we're doing a low resistance, so we want to see it as close to ground as common as possible. We touch our leads together, you get a bit of a range because they're thin and all that old rubbish. And basically what that will do is that will tell us when we connect our test cable to the multimeter and we connect it at the rear where that power supply comes from, what it will tell us is what our resistance is. So we basically minus the ohms that we see when we touch these together, and then that will give us the resistance reading. The reason I use the load probe is basically, it's a simple one. Use it because I want to see what the cable is doing when you load it up. I want to see what my voltage is, and I want to see what my voltage is when I effectively load it up with a load probe. But with this will just tell you if the cable is okay. So what we'll do is we'll put it in this side, and you can see we've got 0.7. So there you go, you've got 1 ohm. So even with the pin in that bad a condition, you still only have a 1 ohm drop between here, through this cable, all the way to the rear. So yes, the multimeter resistance test has a place, don't get me wrong, I use it, it's one of the many things that I do use. But the load probe, obviously, if I load up the cable, I press the button, I can see the voltage drop like a stone. Now obviously this MAN has got a problem with that plug there, that we're in agreement with. I power up the cable, I'll have power here, well the other side I don't actually have power, but that pin there will not actually make contact with the pins that are through here, so effectively you have what we call an open circuit. If you had a dead short or a short circuit, what you'd have is this would have blown a fuse. But unfortunately, MAN, in their infinite wisdom, don't really fit many fuses. So what you have is you have a point where, this is the point where the earth on this part of the loom that goes to the back has obviously been coming into contact with positive and has obviously burnt the pin out rather than blowing a fuse. But then we did find a 30 amp fuse in a cable that should really be 10. Now, if I show you this, this is basically our centerpiece. So what we have here is, this is the only thing I like about MANs, don't really like much else about them, is obviously they're set up in a modular sort of configuration. So you've got the dashboard to that front piece over there, will have one set of looms, it will go through that board and then it will come to here, which is our centerpiece. So what you can do is effectively unplug any one of those plugs, unplug them at the front, and then that is the front end of your loom that you can test, and if it's no good you can change. Same as you can test from here to the rear, and if it's no good you can change it. Trouble is, these plugs, they rot, they've got no protection from the elements, even though they're inside the vehicle. As you can see here, there's rust and all sorts of other rubbish in here that just allows the elements in. Now this here, as you can see, is our wire 151, and as you can see it's been shorting against the floor. It's rubbed and it's shorting against the floor. So we've had a problem with a short circuit that's now become what we refer to as an open circuit, because it's shorted so many times that it's now effectively broken the cable and broken our connection. So that will need to be repaired. But as you can see, almost a quarter of its wiring is broken. Yet when we do our resistance test, we've only got a 1 ohm drop. Now, at some point, that is going to get to a point where it's going to get worse, basically. And once it's worse, you're going to end up with a problem where things are going to cut out when you load them up. Now, our load probe didn't actually pick up that a quarter of the connection is gone, nor did our resistance. So what you'd actually want to do when you finish doing your repair, so when you fix the plug at the front, is you'd want to basically power up this cable with its original loads on it, and then put the load probe on it, so that you're actually testing the actual draw on this cable, because obviously this cable is like 28 strand. So with it loaded, you'd probably see it rear its ugly head, but because we're just testing from point A to point B, it doesn't give us like an effective thing. Yes, this is the problem. This is the original problem, right, with our vehicle. What we've got now is a symptom of the original problem with our vehicle. So that's one thing to bear in mind when you do this sort of work, is have I found the solution to the problem, or have I found a symptom to the original problem? So, and as you can see down here, you can see that green stuff, put my finger here, that there is corrosion, and it's throughout the vehicle. So you're going to have problems with this vehicle basically just rotting itself to pieces. Now it's a 2006, I think, so it's quite old. It's quite an old vehicle now. It's over 10 years old. So in theory, these looms really need to be replaced, or the vehicle needs to be replaced. This is our repair complete. Change the front pins. So we're going to test this block.